Hello friends, I realize it's been about a month and I know it should be quality over quantity with regard to anything you do. But when you've made these arbitrary but compulsory goals and deadlines, you feel compelled to make them happen. So my goal has been one video a month, and this is so I can eventually buy something to use for this other than my iPhone, because I have discovered, and I may have mentioned it before, that I like getting on the camera and talking about things, and my favorite thing to talk about are my favorite things, and I just love to share those with you. So yeah, I think that intro might be a little misleading. This isn't a favorite things video. I am going to talk about my TBR pile for this summer, which is a bunch of nonfiction books. Typically, I don't love nonfiction. I would much rather immerse myself in stories, horror stories and fantasy and speculative fiction, and lately I've been reading a lot of like mysteries and thrillers, maybe because I'm turning into a little old lady, and I feel in my heart that's what little old ladies love to read. But yeah, so I generally don't gravitate towards biographies or any sort of nonfiction really, but I did want to show you the stack of books that I'm using to try and entice myself to getting back into it this mid to late summer. But first, I did want to share my new purple office walls. Right down there where that little, I believe that is an antique birthing chair, where that antique birthing chair is, right exactly behind that is our master bathroom. And the week we moved into this house, it developed a leak. And so ever since then, we had been using the guest bathroom. We finally got that fixed, but they had to put a huge hole in the wall to do it. And so we had to repaint everything. And now it is super extra hyper purple. And little 8-year-old Sarah is over the moon. Well, let me give you a better look at this glorious purple wall. Isn't that just grand? These books, I am going to take you out to the parlor where these books are currently housed. Here is the book, or the bookshelf rather, that we're going to be looking at. Now I think I'm going to do what I hate when people do, but I don't know a lot about these books, so I'm basically going to do what you could do yourself, is read the back of them to you. Okay, so the smartest thing to do seemed to just bring them all over to the table. And these aren't all of the books on the shelf. These are the ones that I've sort of cherry-picked to start with. I'm not reading the Wiseman's book. I feel like I lose a lot of goth cred by saying I've never read it, but it's out so that I at least think about reading it. So The Wild Edge of Sorrow is the first one that I'm going to start with. And I remember hearing about this a few months ago, and I think it's basically about rituals of grief and gratitude and sorrow and intimacy, and it just seems like a really beautiful book to immerse yourself in. How to Disappear also sounds really good. It seems to be about how there's this compulsion to be very online, to make yourself and everything you do very public. And I think the author is uneasy with that. And I think this book is an examination of that feeling and maybe sort of a field guide to becoming a bit less seen. And I feel like people want to be seen in a way, but I don't know, there's also a part of you that wants to keep pieces of you to yourself. So I think this book is going to be good for that. So I thought Wintering sounded like a really excellent read. It seems to be about I guess, how really powerful resting and retreating and pulling into yourself can be. And I really don't know more about it than that, although people have described it as sort of being a feeling like a hug for when they need it the most. So I thought this would be a good time to take a break and talk about what I like to wear when I read, because I like to be very comfortable. And so here is probably my favorite reading outfit right now. We have got a purple cardigan. This is from Universal Standard. If you can see it, it's loose and comfortable. I think it's made out of cotton, so it's good for summertime. I have got a Warwick Castle t-shirt, and I will tell you something very frivolous. I saw Courtney Cox wear this on Shining Vale, and I thought, I've never been to Warwick Castle, but I want that shirt. And I guess you could say, wow, you're a poser, Sarah. And I would say that is very rude, but you are correct. And I've got some linen pants. These are from Athleta. They're pretty great. And maybe the best part are my Hotdog socks. And I sing a song when I wear these socks. I'll tell you about it. Okay, so I'm not going to sing this song to you, but imagine if you were singing the song Secret Agent Man, but you were saying Secret Hotdog Socks. I don't have to sing it, because now you're going to sing it to yourself. Also, you may be thinking, didn't you used to wear more makeup in your videos? And that is true. When I started making these videos, I was going through a bit of a goth phase. I will always have a secret goth heart. But at the time, I was writing for a goth alternative lifestyle blog, and so I was really feeling it. There was a lot of winged eyeliner and black or blue lipstick, and to be honest with you, I hate wearing makeup. I'll show you what I wear now. So here is our bathroom now that we can use it again. It is a tinted moisturizer by these guys. I also use their brow brush thing. I use a Charlotte Tilbury sort of, I don't know what you call this, like a eye shadow stick. It's like a brown. I wear a Kat Von D black, like on my upper inside lashes, and mascara. And that is just about it. Okay, not entirely it. I do wear something on my lips. This is by Ritual Defee. This is a sort of, if I can twist it up. Oh, it broke off. Okay, so it's a sort of purpley gray. It's called Strange Creatures or Unnatural Creatures, or actually that was the name of a book I just read. What's this called? Can I get it to focus? I don't know. Anyway, that's what I wear on my lips. And this is a very beautiful Victorian desk ornament that I got from Kate at Roses and Rue Antique. Back to the books. So the next one I think is pretty self-explanatory if you're an introvert. Right? Do you really need to know anything else? I can't tell you much else because I haven't read it. This book, I had no idea how enormous it would be. And I will show you my head for scale. Oh, my head. And this book, it's very big. I couldn't even tell you what it's about. I think it's about seasonal living, but it's beautiful and I felt like it would be good to read. Braiding Sweetgrass is a book that I have heard so many people talk about, and I thought it was supposed to be like indigenous teachings on, plants and plant wisdom, but I could have sworn that someone just told me it's a little bit appropriative in some way. I don't know what that means. I don't know a lot about the books. So once I finally read it, I will report back. Okay, now we are breaking again because when I read, I don't know about you, but when I read, I like to have a snack. So let me show you my summer book snacks. The kitchen is a bit of a mess right now. We've got some dead flowers in the background, but this is the summer of feeding my inner child. And little Sarah never got to have sugary cereals. I was especially enchanted by the idea of honeycomb and golden grahams. I tried honeycomb last week and it wasn't great. So I thought, what if Rice Krispie treats, but with honeycomb? And you know what? This was a waste of a box of honeycomb. It's not great. I haven't yet tried the golden grahams, but I think they're going to be very tasty, and I look forward to them. And these strawberries just happen to be sitting here. I would not ruin my bowl of cereal with fruit. Okay, we are down to our final 3 books. Insensorium by Tenaeus. Now, I don't know a lot about this one. I think it has to do with perfume. It is written by a woman of color. I believe this is the creator who had the it was like a beauty or cosmetics brand called High Wildflower. I had one of their lipsticks, and I think now she does perfume, or maybe she did perfume all along. I did get some samples from her, and some of them are quite beautiful. I might even review them on this channel at some point. But this seemed like it would just be a really lovely memoir slash, I don't know, maybe history of perfume and her culture. You know, I honestly don't know. Don't quote me on any of that. I don't even think I've read the back of the book. Okay, Atomic Habits. If you watch like productivity channels on YouTube, you have probably heard a lot about this one. I'm not one of those people who feel like they have to be productive all the time. Well, you know what? That depends. Sometimes I do go through phases, and I am, but I know our worth is not determined by our productivity. So let me just get that out of the way first to be talking about a book like this. I am fascinated by the idea of habits and routines, and you know, by extension, you know, how those things become ritual for us. And if there's, you know, a way that I can better how I structure my day or my habits, because I do have morning routines and rituals, and I do have things that I would like to do more often in the course of those routines. You know, if there's some way I could build upon those and make them better, then I'm really keen to know about that. So maybe it's cheesy, but I am excited about this book. And lastly, I thought this looked like a lot of fun. This is The Language of Clothes by Alison Lurie, and I realize I haven't said the author for a single one of these books. So of course I will list them all down in the description box. But I think this is maybe the evolving history of fashion and clothing, and how evolving gender roles and politics and, you know, environmentalism, maybe how, you know, all of this over time has influenced fashion and the clothing industry. And it says it's supposed to be a really witty book, which I appreciate. I have a hard time with nonfiction when it's super dry. So I'm really looking forward to reading this one. Speaking of habits, there is a book that I forgot to put in this pile, and that is because it's by my bedside. So this is a book of poetry. Whoops. This is a book of poetry by Jared Anderson. It's called Love Notes from the Hollow Tree. I believe he has another book out, something about haunted forest, maybe. You know, I have this book, so I should know the title. But what I have been trying to do is every night before bed, you know, I do my skincare. I do some very light, lazy stretches just to sort of, you know, stretch my back out and my hips, because I'm very achy and creaky lately. And I like to just open a book of poetry and read one poem before I get into bed. I'm also doing my Duolingo. I'm learning Japanese and I'm refreshing my French. So if you're on Duolingo, look for me there. Well, I should note this book of poetry, this Jared Anderson, he has a podcast. You probably knew about him before I did. I think it's something like the Crypto Naturalist podcast. I don't listen to a lot of podcasts. I have a hard time listening to things. I'd rather read them. And speaking of habits, Yvonne and I have started walking together every morning. It used to be just me, and that's when I'd listen to podcasts. But now he's with me, so I have a conversation companion, so I haven't listened to a single podcast in about a half a year. And so before I wrap this video up, I did want to share one more set of favorite things, sort of a theme here. It's favorite smells that I like to have when I'm reading. So there's perfumes and there's some incense that I'll be sharing with you. Okay, first is the incense. This is from Hexanot. There, it just fell out very nicely for me. I think one of my tarot decks just threw it at me. So this is from Hexanot. It is called Sanctum, and it is one of the most beautiful incenses that I have ever burnt. It's almost like an ecclesiastical gourmand. I don't know how else to describe it. I actually did review it on my blog, so maybe I'll link to that below. So yes, I highly suggest you go to her shop and you pick up 1,000,000 bags of this. So I was sent this sample by a new friend on in a perfume Facebook group. It's Ariza Legrand's Rêve d'Océan, and it is so good. So if you love the offertory pencil shavings of Comme des Garçons incense series, Avignon, which I have spoken about before, then you will really love this. It is that, but it's on steroids and maybe hallucinogens. You know, like the drugs that the monks and the saints and the holy prophets and the nuns take to get all swole and bench press dusty church pews and write trippy ecclesiastical poetry on brittle parchment scrolls. Those drugs, sure. It's like the Gothic sex nerds, Lord Byron and Percy Shelley, and they just show up smelling of nightmares and bad reputations, all gloomy and grandiose like moody vanilla and smoky leather and rich sticky resins and horny graveyard strolls at midnight. If Ken Russell made a fever dream of a film about the famous time-traveling debaucheries of Hildegard von Bingen and her companion Frankenstein's monster, I think it would smell like Rêve d'Océan. And then finally is Les Lunatiques from Lumea, and this is a cupped palm of night air. It's softly flickering moth wings at midnight. It's a dewy mist of cloud floating across the moon. It's shadow-draped blooms furled in upon themselves and dreaming. It's the holy gloaming poetry of cosmic light reaching us from stars long dead, and the sweet murmuring exhalations of a slumbering grove of saplings. This is a gorgeous, gorgeous scent. Oh, and one more thing. There's always one more thing. So I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing, but I feel like when I read, I have to have very pretty earrings in. So these are some blown glass baubles from Alexis Berger. Let's see if I can focus in on them. Well, I couldn't, so instead, here they are. I've taken them out of my ears, and you can see them against the backdrop of my apparently filthy computer screen. Anyway, these are this beautiful turquoise aquamarine, that's what they are. And they just catch the light so beautifully. And so I just like them in my ears, little ear bobs dangling like a little secret tucked into my hair. Okay, so that actually was the last thing. I don't think this is going to be a very long video. It's certainly not very polished, and I don't know that I told you a whole lot about anything, But if you were looking for some nonfiction books to add to your list, maybe you found some today. Or if you were looking for some snack ideas, because who doesn't like to get their books all crummy, right? And if nothing else, I beseech you to go to Caroline's Hex and Knock Shop and grab some of that Sanctum incense, because it is so freaking beautiful. Oh no, I can't believe I forgot this. I really do have one more thing to show you. Okay, wait for it. Okay guys, look what showed up in the mail. This is an early advanced copy. The Art of Darkness is not available until September 6th. That's the pub date. That's when it'll be released into the world. Pre-orders are available now. My publisher keeps emailing me and telling me how many pre-orders I have, and the number is not going up very quickly, so please go pre-order this so I don't feel like a total failure. Okay, for real, that's it. So yeah, I hope you found something to add to your Goodreads list, if nothing else, or some perfumes you want to try, or some hot dog socks, because that's just a gleeful delight, and you know that's going to be an earworm now. And I'm going to try to have another video up in August, and so that'll be a month from now. Until then, later weirdos.